Mike here with Noonan Sports Specialist. Today's tip of the week, we're going to be going over the hip thrust. And we use the hip thrust a lot in our warm-up with clients to get the glutes and the hamstrings going. Today we're going to go over a more advanced variation, which is a weighted hip thrust. And we're going to do 3 different versions for you guys to try out. So the first variation we're going to be doing is a barbell hip thrust off of the bench. So what you're going to want to do is get a bench here, right behind the shoulder blades. From there, I want to roll the barbell up into the hip crease. So as I bring my knees up, I'm going to find that good crease right along the belt line, rest the bar in there centered across my hips. From there, I'll dig my heels in, put my shoulders back onto the bench, and I'm going to hip thrust the bar up, drop the hips back down, thrust up, and right back down. So and then finish. My goal there is to drive the hips up to about parallel with the floor and really focus on squeezing the glutes as I get through that movement. The second variation, if you don't want to climb up on top of the bench, or maybe you don't have that available to you, would do just the barbell hip thrust on the floor. So it's going to change the angle a little bit, change the range of motion, but same concept. We're going to roll that bar up to the crease of the hips. I'm going to lay back, center the bar underneath, and then dig my heels into the ground, lay back, and hip thrust here. Not afraid to do a little bit of a pause at the top and a little bit of a reset and retightening at the bottom. And guys, the third variation that we can do is another weighted hip thrust without the barbell at all, and it would be using a sandbag or a sand belt, potentially a dumbbell, a weight plate, anything that we can lay across the hips to get some resistance there through that thrust. So we're using, for the purpose of the video, the 40-pound sand belt. It's great because it's soft and it's a little bit pliable. We're going to lay back again, drape it across your hips, and now with this I want to hold it so it doesn't roll up and onto my chest as I'm thrusting. And I'm just going to dig the heels in, drive to the ceiling, pause for a second, and repeat. So with all the variations of the hip thrust that we just went through, and especially the bench variation, we want to watch for a couple different things. The first one being excessive extension of your low back. We want this to be a hip and a glute movement. We don't need a ton of low back movement. So when I'm on the bench here, I want to make sure I'm avoiding this excessive arch through my low back and really firing up here. I want to keep it a little bit more in the hips. So what that means is I'm probably going to have to shorten that range of motion a little bit and really push through my hips and squeeze. Very similar to when I do a kettlebell swing or an RDL. I want to get those hips through without extending here. Same concept, I'm just laying down on my back. The next thing to watch for is to make sure that we push through our heels and not driving too much up on the toes. So if you see here, if I drive through my toes, I end up turning on a little bit more on the front side of my legs and turning off a little bit more on the back side. So I want to think about digging the heels in close to my hips and then driving up weight through the heels. And the final helpful tip on this would be with the barbell hip thrust would be to use a pad of some sorts. So as you start to get heavier, that bar is obviously going to dig in a little bit on your pelvis. You can use a pad here to wrap around the bar to protect it, or you can use an Airex pad and just place it over your hips and roll the bar up onto it. So the hip thrust, whether it's barbell or weighted or up on the bench, can be thrown into a program as kind of a big lower body exercise similar to the squat or the deadlift. It's a great inherently safe exercise because we're not traveling through a massive range of motion. If something goes goofy, we can get out of there, and we can load it pretty heavily. So with the barbell, we can get into a pretty high range of weight without having to worry about it being super dangerous or even super difficult to learn the technique of. You can go between 5 and 15 reps on this depending on the purpose for the lift. Let me know what you guys think once you give it a try. Thanks.